You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. And Adam, guess what?
What?
Play ball! It's baseball season now.
It is. Yeah.
This is how you know that I'm old now.
Oh, here we go.
I did buy a season pass to all of the baseball games.
On TV.
Yes.
I thought you meant like to go to all the.
No, there's not a ball field close enough for me to utilize that. except for my hometown Fort Wayne Tin Caps. And frankly, buying the Reds TV package did allow me access to every minor league game, so I can also watch my Tin Caps.
Hey, that's great. It is always a really nice sign of spring. You know, now that it is spring, but it's a nice sign of spring when baseball is back.
You know what? I've gotten to the point in my life where I enjoy the existence of a baseball game. Just knowing that I can put one on and just kick my feet up and have that exist. I get it. And it's okay if people don't. I also just recently got how hockey works. I'm essentially becoming a sport boy.
Oh.
No, this is good because here's the difference.
No. That was an awe of endearment, not an scolding.
It's when I was growing up, like I watch football and all this stuff, but like It was you have to be very into sports and know everything that's going on ESPN. And now I've gone to a low-key, I'll watch my team and see what happens.
There you go. That's the best way to do it. You know, I can't get into like sports stats and memorizing every player, like as if I was reading comics, because that's how my brain works with comics, but it doesn't work that way with sports.
The weird thing about sports is that it is really hard to be a sports journalist and then become a sports writer. But in comics, it's very easy to do that, actually.
What are you suggesting?
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm suggesting that, like, a lot of people have done that, including Gail Simone. It's a time-honored tradition. Roy Thomas, buddy. This is going way back.
I was really wondering how you were going to go from baseball, You
didn't have a plan. Found my way there eventually.
Yeah, so this week we are talking about stories from Gail Simone. Why are we talking about Gail Simone this week?
Well, that's a great question, Adam, and it 100% has to do with our lovely fans. I think they're fans of ours on patreon.com/battleoftheatom. They reach deep down into their hearts and pocketbooks every month, every ding dang month. Toss a couple of coins into our coffers. Sometimes that means that they get to pick an episode that we bespoke create around one of their ideas. Sometimes that means that we eventually get around to long promised bonus content, which we will do when I stop being deeply on the road and have time to even plan something. Folks, we're double recording this week because there was no way that we were going to take off like a month if we didn't do it this week.
It's okay, man. I'm really proud of you. You're in the hotel. You got the mic set up.
That was the other thing. And that was the other thing. I was going either baseball or Zach's back recording in hotels. It's that time of year, buddy.
Well, with Gail, I have the distinct pleasure of working with Austin at Comics XF and reviewing Uncanny each week, which we took over, after I'd say the first 10 or so issues. But, I know you're not caught up.
Have not read
Uncanny.
Here's the thing. We'll talk about this in this episode. I have nothing against Gail Simone personally, except for the fact that I do not enjoy her style of humor on twitter.com.
It's an interesting...
It's not even about the lasers thing. I do not care. I think it is well proven that I do not care. I understand that that's a joke. It's just, it's not my style of humor. It's fine. It's just, it's for someone else. It's like how I don't personally like vibe with I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry and the other works that Kevin James and Adam Sandler have done necessarily.
Okay.
People don't think about I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry enough. That's a wild movie.
You're really, between last episode and tonight, you're really showing off your movie.
I did. I want to be clear.
On a few days there.
I explicitly said I did it like that. Also, very funny today or yesterday that I went on avclub.com and there was an article about, hey, Sucker Punch still sucks and here's why. And I'm like, look, you're making some valid points.
Yeah, that's
you are discounting the helicopters with cool music and guns. But you know what? I don't disagree with that. That said, you know what? I think it's okay to have a different sensibility than somebody. That doesn't mean they're a bad person. It does mean because Gail Simone is a woman in comics and has historically been a woman in comics for her entire life. And in fact, got her most notoriety initially by writing probably the most influential piece of comics journalism criticism with the women in refrigerators. Like, that's the one that broke containment.
Yeah.
So, like, nothing but respect on that front. I just don't particularly like her style of humor, which permeates everything she does. It's okay. There's a lot of people who don't find what I find funny. Like, if someone said they didn't find me personally funny, I'd say, yes, I've read many of those comments.
See, it's been an interesting journey with the Uncanny stuff because it started with, Jake and Anna kind of jumping off the book because they couldn't stand it anymore. Austin and I jumping on it, being very I would say somewhat aggressive in our criticism of it. And then over the last year or so of talking about the book, I feel like we've just kind of mellowed out and we're kind of riding with it. And that doesn't mean that we don't have very strong opinions about some of the weird stuff she does, some of the choices she makes for classic characters or dialogue that doesn't quite match a character or some of the story decisions. But there's other parts of that book that it's just vibes. Like, the last 3 issues have literally been X-Men versus Marvel's version of the Universal monsters, also that Gail could troll us on who the actual villain of the book was by making everyone think it was Agatha Harkness. And then it turns out it was Agatha from a very random issue of Tomb of Dracula or something like that.
Okay. And can I tell you why I hate that so much?
Please.
Because somebody spent $15 to have a comics writer say, haha, I got you. And that I can respect on one hand, and on the other hand, I'm like, but that doesn't mean I need to buy this comic.
Here's the thing. She has a very devoted and loving following.
Love that.
So she's just on her frequency, man. And I got to say, it was at least a pleasure going back to this first one because I really do enjoy Gail Simone's Domino.
Which, by the way, because we got distracted on all of this, Patreon people did not specifically request this. This came from a You Pick 'em that we also offer on Patreon, where we just say, hey, everyone, what's some stuff you want us to cover? And then we pick the good ones. And one of the good ones was Gail Simone stuff that isn't Uncanny X-Men. And I said, thank you. Look, folks, I'm going to be honest. It's going to be a little while before we hit the Fall of the Ashes stuff.
Also, if you want to know how I feel about it, there's a volume of reviews at this point. So, you're not getting Zach's input there, but you can read about how
my input is that I need space. I need space yes. to properly evaluate things as a critic.
Sometimes Adam needs space too. But one thing we have had some space from is from 2019's Domino Hotshots. This was a 5-issue miniseries that appeared after the 10th issue of Domino Volume 3 and mainly maintains the creative team of Gail Simone and artist extraordinaire, one of my absolute favorites, David Baldion, with fill-in art from... Who's the fill-in artist on this? Hold on. It's right on the tip of my...
Edit it out, so it's fine.
Michael Shelfer, who's doing a kind of similar style. Obviously, can't shine to the heights of Baldion.
So I want to tell you the difference between Marvel in 2026 and Marvel in 2019.
Yeah, please.
Marvel in 2019, if a book wasn't doing so hot, like an ongoing book, they would cancel it at issue 10 and then relaunch it for a mini series that would close out the story for the most part. They did that with multiple books. Just saying, hey, maybe a new number one with a slight change will juice sales on these last ones. Where nowadays they will just up and say, you have 5 issues, do your best.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which I would say is, if that's your model, you may want to change how you're telling stories generally and just only tell 5 issue stories, but c'est la vie.
Yeah. Well, and Domino Hotshots is pitched as kind of a single arc of a story.
It's Domino issues 11 through 15 is what it is.
It is. But it is a concise story that has a beginning, middle, and end. It is not going to like leave you hanging or anything like that. The premise of this is that Domino, throughout Domino Volume 3, had her like personal girl gang, right?
She had
the posse, which consisted of her, as well as Outlaw and Diamondback.
Love Diamondback. We don't talk about the Groonies all that much on this podcast. I love Diamondback. I think Diamondback's great. And I will be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Outlaw until I read Outlaw, and then I actually think Outlaw is great also.
Outlaw can be a lot of fun.
I think Outlaw has a lot of potential to be a lot of a fun character.
And we'll talk about Outlaw a couple times in this episode, but in this mini series, the posse grows, including some other characters. One of which was introduced in Domino Volume 3, which is the Wakandan General Shun Kwa, also known as Atlas Bear. We have Black Widow from the Avengers, and Zach, you wanted to talk about the other edition here, White Fox.
Yeah, White Fox. Who, look, I assume there's going to be a lot more White Fox pornography now because White Fox has now been introduced into Marvel Rivals.
Oh boy. Okay.
White Fox was a character that was initially introduced in, I believe, Marvel Future Fight as a original character. They had a handful of characters that were original, largely Korean characters. That they brought into the world of Marvel, which I think is pretty interesting. White Fox is a super spy. Like Luna Snow came from that whole push.
Yep.
Who also in Marvel Rivals, people seem to like her. I've got nothing for her. My favorite character of that was Crescent, who is a little girl who does Taekwondo and also has a bear named Ayako, who's a spirit bear and does Taekwondo with her. And I think she's fantastic.
Very cool character design. I'm looking at the Marvel Rivals version of White Fox, and it's very different than what Baldian is drawing here, which is very much, Korean super spy, whereas the Rivals version is like, oh, she's cute. She's got like fox ears and a magical foxtail.
Look, I don't want to get too on this, but it's like, it's just they wanted to make her furry art. They just wanted to have a furry character. Like they can say that they're not making things for gooners, but you can't just admit it, kinda a little bit.
Yeah.
Actually, wait, I think I'm wrong. I do believe she actually came from a comic book first, Avengers Electric Rain.
Oh, okay.
I may be wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure.
It's okay if you're not sure which one came first. The other thing I wanted to note about these 5 issues is that they do feature covers by the talented R.B. Silva.
It's really fantastic. Love it.
So we've got some really good art. I would say when the fill-in stuff kicks in, it's not as great, which is something interesting to really think about. This episode is like one of the things I kept thinking about was how much better I like Gail's stuff when she's paired with a really talented artist. A lot of the times when I'm thinking about her Uncanny stuff, if Marquez is with her or Vecchio is doing an issue, I tend to enjoy it a lot more if Marquez is Vecchio is great too, but Marquez elevates what it is that she's doing.
Adam, is it possible that artists are more important to comic books than writers.
They certainly can be, and it is a visual medium, so folks need to remember that.
I would argue that the bulk of the storytelling is coming from the artist, and the writer is coming up with sometimes a plot. And here's the thing. The plot doesn't have to be good. You think Jack Kirby was good at plots? We talked about that recently. Jack Kirby was great at a lot of things, not plots.
Do you think Jack Kirby would have enjoyed this story in which a mad scientist gets infected with like celestial junk and like it's contagious and keeps spreading to the outlaws? And like mass, like different groups of spies are vying over control of this stuff?
No, I don't think Jack Kirby would have loved the fact that the Celestials and all of the stuff he made in Eternals as a separate universe explicitly got folded into Marvel, but that ship has long sailed. So
Right.
like I think he probably has bigger fish to fry when it comes to that. I think Jack Kirby would appreciate how David Baldeón expressed Jack Kirby's art style in the language that Jack Kirby used for those characters while still retaining David Baldeón's inherent style and in his inherent approach to art. Like, I think Jack Kirby would have appreciated that he took from what Kirby was doing but made it his own.
He does a pretty good Celestial, you know, and because
What's interesting is you and me had this conversation over text pretty recently, honestly inspired by me reading these. But I sent you a picture that my son had drawn.
Oh,
my
yeah.
7-year-old of some creature thing, and he was like, "Yeah, it's a glitchy technological creature," and it had Kirby lines and Kirby dots and all this stuff in it. And my son has not read a single Jack Kirby thing. He doesn't know what Jack Kirby is. But I do think it's beautiful that Jack Kirby's, even if Jack Kirby's name is not known as well as Stan Lee or some other folks, his prominence and his influence has just permeated the culture to the fact that a small child is like, yeah, this is how you draw cool technology, right?
Yeah.
You draw Jack Kirby stuff. And I'm like, Bud, you don't know what that is, but that's cool.
Yes.
I love that drawing. Doing that really well here.
Would really love to see more of that from your son. So Hotshots, it is mainly about, these kind of different political entities all coming together.
Because, so this is the weird thing about it. So there's celestial technology could destroy the world. Domino's trying to stop it. Black Widow's trying to get it.
Yep.
White Fox, who explicitly works for the Korean government. Like, she is a spy for South Korea. That's her job.
Wants to tech. So does Wakanda.
Well, Atlas Bear has been kicked out of Wakanda. So she is Wakandan, but she is not an active part of their political apparatus.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird tension at the start of this is, well, can we trust the South Korean government and the Wakandan government and the Russian government with this? And hold on, Black Widow does not work for Vladimir Putin.
No.
But that's just her, that's a weird vibe. It's like, yeah, she's from Russia, so she must be a Russian spy. It's like,
but it's also is it the Avengers? Because then we get Tony Stark involved here. Is it whoever Deadpool is working for? Because now Deadpool shows up. So it's one of these things where there is a MacGuffin and all of these different entities that represent different alliances or groups are going to come and fight over it. And ultimately, the solution to this problem at the end is that they start getting infected with it themselves and are offered the choice to kind of have ultimate power, and they relinquish it and it goes back up to the stars. And that's the end of the story. So ultimately, is it that much of a threat? In fact, the story kind of hat on a hat's a little bit, because in issue 4, you think the story is already over. And then it's like, wait a minute, the mad scientist had a wife and she's infected too. And it's like, okay. All right.
This comic absolutely does go an issue too long.
Yeah, we didn't need that extra issue of fighting about this. We could have wrapped it up.
I think my challenge with this book is, one, you're right. Hat on hat. There are too many things happening here. If this was a Domino and her posse story.
Mhm.
I actually think this would work a lot better by expanding the cast and including Atlas Bear and White Fox and Black Widow and Deadpool and Iron Man. It's too much happening.
It's a little busy.
And it does, because the best stuff in this is the relationship between Outlaw, Diamondback, and Domino. Like their friendship, the fact that they care about each other.
Mhm.
Is there a little bit of sapphic stuff in there? Absolutely.
Oh,
What
yeah.
are you going to do about that? There's also a weird bit where, like, but that stuff all works. Like, they feel like, at minimum, great gal pals who are going to stick beside each other no matter what. But, like, does Deadpool need to make out and be a good boyfriend to Diamondback? I don't.
That part's weird. I mean, it's obvious that Deadpool might just be here to kind of like boost some sales, you know? Oh, he's on cover of number 2.
Deadpool's here because Gail Simone likes to write Deadpool.
Also
like
that. Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Sure. Plus, he had been in the Domino series previous. So
I honestly don't.
I think so.
I don't remember the back end.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm making
I don't remember the back end of that Domino series. Longshot was in it. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Would have been fun having a long shot as a hot shot. But
actually, see, because here's the thing. I do think that Longshot could be a good bimbo.
Oh yeah, he is.
Like, and that's kind of what they need, because Outlaw isn't that, even though that's the role that you would think she would play in this.
Right.
He's a tough Southern cowgirl who likes wearing a bikini,
mm-hmm.
but like that's her vibe. Deadpool, yeah. I don't know, man. I'm of two minds of this because there's a lot I like about this. I like the relationships. I love Baldion's art, but the moment he's off, every page that he's not on is a huge step down.
It is. I mean, Baldion elevates everything. He does such good acting with the characters.
That's why I buy the relationships, because he's selling it with his character acting.
Yeah, there's a whole extended sequence where Stark's Iron Man robots shoot down this. I guess they're in like a Wakandan. I don't know what the spacecraft is that they're in, but he shoots it down, and there's this entire sequence that's happening where all the characters are interacting while the ship is crashing. It's just done masterfully. It's drawn really well. So when you get to the later issues and Scheffler is taking over, and it's a lot of, let's go fight the guy infected with the Celestial, then let's go fight the girl infected with the Celestial. Or it's supposed to be this like super cosmic stuff where Nina is, coming to grips with all of the potential realities that she could have in the future with this power. You just wish Baldion like had been able to do each page, because it would have really made it shine that much more.
It really would have. And that's what's disappointing about this, because there is a lot to like here. And unfortunately it just doesn't congeal into one piece. And I think I would say that is something with the Gail Simone work that I have read is actually a pretty common thing. I think it is good, not great. And that's, I don't want to read comics that aren't great. I like great comics. I would prefer more great comics out there.
I enjoyed this. I enjoyed Domino Volume 3. I think that's a really great character for Gail, and I like the relationships that she builds between this cast. So why don't we take a look at this in terms of our big old list?
Well, that's the amazing thing about this podcast, Adam, is that we have a very long, very, very complete at this point list, and a list that's only going to get more complete as time goes on. We have ranked 1,143 different X-Men stories from best to worst over the last 8 years, 9?
I'm not sure. I forget.
Too many years.
Many
years, with the best comic being the House of X Powers of 10, the 550th best comic being Generation Hope Schism, the 1,100th best comic being X Factor Special Prisoner of Love, and the 1,143rd best X-Men comic is, of course, 2099 World of Tomorrow. Adam, we have the first arc of Gail Simone's Domino on here.
We do. At 483, we have Domino Volume 3, 1-6. I do not think this is as good as that. I do not think this is as bad as at 1032 Domino Volume 1, and I certainly don't think it's as good as at 38 Domino Volume 2.
Domino Volume 2 at 38?
It's pretty sick, remember?
I mean, no, it's good. I'm not disagreeing. I think that's appropriate. I just didn't think that I didn't think we would talk ourselves into putting it that high. It is really good.
It is really good.
It is really good. Hey, at 600 on our list, we have Hunt for Xavier. Is this better or worse than Hunt for Xavier?
I don't think it's that good. I think I would go lower.
Is it better or worse than Pride and Wisdom at 900?
Oh, it's better than that.
Is it better or worse than the all-new X-Men story where they're in Paris?
It's way better than that. I think we're probably in the 600s. At 700, we have Storm Volume 2.
Now, do you remember explicitly which one Storm Volume 2 is? I want to say that's her
not
young romance with T'Challa.
Yes. I think this is better than that.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not disagreeing with you. Okay, at 650 is X-Men Age of Apocalypse from 2005 by Akira Yoshida and Chris Pachalo.
Great art, but I think I would give this the edge.
Okay.
We're in the right ballpark, though.
This isn't better than 645 Extreme X-Men Volume 2, 1-3, Xavier Must Die.
No.
Oh, I'm going to say something, and I don't like saying this.
Yeah.
This isn't as good as 647, which is X-Men Volume 4, 1-3 Primer. That's the Brian Wood, Olivier Coipel, the Girl Squad.
I would put it right below that, then. I think this is probably better than District X 1-6, the Mr.
District
M.
X.
So that would make this our new 648 Domino Hotshots. We're going to go back in time for our second story to 2002, which pairs Gail Simone with a team of artists known as Udon Studios.
You know about Udon, right?
Udon is a group of like 5 people, right? It's a collective of people working together, and they're all doing this sort of pseudo anime style art, which I gotta say I don't love.
I don't. Udon Studios I associate so heavily with Street Fighter that I can't. They did Street Fighter comics.
That makes so much sense. Okay.
Like, that's the thing. That's the vibe. Are you thinking of what Street Fighter looks like? Because it's that.
Yeah. I just think there is a thinness and a uniformity to their line and mark making that I think I understand. This actually makes a lot more sense if they're going for more of an animation style.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have like weight. Everything seems to be existing on the same plane. I can't tell always what's in the foreground, the background. So the artwork, I want to be clear, is not bad necessarily, but like throughout reading this arc, I did really want to know if I would like it a lot better if it was illustrated by someone else, because I do think there's the bones here of like an okay Deadpool arc.
Yeah, so this is Deadpool 65 to 69, Healing Factor. It's written by Gail Simone with Udon Studios. So this is after Christopher Priest leaves Deadpool. This is actually the last arc of the original Deadpool series. Did you know that?
Yes, because on the last page, they tell you to go read Agent X.
Agent X, which was a weird relaunch thing that there's people that say that it is to spite Rob Liefeld so he didn't get residuals from Deadpool, but he wasn't getting residuals from Deadpool, so this was a bad plan, but also it was a Bill Jemas plan, so it being a bad plan does not eliminate that from reality, because Bill Jemas was a wild person, but also they could have just wanted an X in the title, like who knows. But it's the last one. This comes in after Christopher Priest finishes up with Deadpool. Deadpool had kind of been floundering. They didn't know what to do with it. And Simone's an interesting pick here because in her career before this, do you know what comics she had done?
None.
The Simpsons comics.
Oh, okay.
For Bongo Studios. That was it. So this is her first big two credit. Now, those Simpson comics, you may be familiar with some of her work on those Simpsons comics, Adam, specifically like 2 panels.
Are we talking about those Bongo comics from like the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this
which
is
panels,
from 2001 is when
talking
this one
about?
came out. It is the 2 panels where Grant Morrison and Mark Miller argue about who's better at writing X-Men.
Yes. And they're like fighting outside the store.
Which I love those because if you were to talk to an X-Men reader today in 2026 and ask what was a more important influential comic, New X-Men or Ultimate X-Men, there's a clear-cut winner. But that's not really the case in 2001.
Right.
In 2001, there's a much better case to be made that Ultimate X-Men is a bigger, more important, more influential book at that exact moment. It's just that New X-Men had the staying power. So I find that historically a very enlightening and interesting thing.
Well, I was talking with some people earlier today about Deadpool in general as like, what is the character in terms of its staying power? And what is interesting is that the idea of Deadpool is largely that he's kind of a character that is designed to just fit into any time period and just be reflective of that moment through its memes and its culture and its references. And, he's a Bugs Bunny in a lot of ways. And it fits very well with Simone's kind of like online persona and the way that she likes to interact with people. I do think it's a good mix.
You're not wrong, but you are describing things that I don't like.
Well,
that's taste versus quality,
Yeah, I don't know that I like Deadpool in general. It's certainly like in general, I'm not the biggest fan of solo Deadpool stories, but if someone is going to write the character, it makes sense for that person to have like a background in writing Simpsons comics or like, a Mad Magazine style of thinking, because
it's a comedy character. You got to do comedy.
Yeah.
And comedy can be many things. In fact, we've talked a lot about sometimes comedy is jokes that only you find funny. That's okay.
Did you find this arc funny?
That's a great question, and the answer is no.
Okay. There were a couple jokes that landed for me. I did
not find it deeply funny. In this arc, Deadpool he's got a weird story. He gets credit for killing a bunch of Japanese crime lords.
The Four Winds.
And everyone's afraid of him, so he's getting a lot of gigs. But he's also dealing with like his secretary who's being abused.
That part's really weird, isn't it?
It's a weird thing to do in a Deadpool book.
The fact that this is a very slapstick story about like an assassin who sometimes has like a droopy gun or, whatever it might be. And then to have a very serious subplot about his administrative assistant being abused by her boyfriend it's interesting. It's a choice. I don't know.
Is her boyfriend Taskmaster? Because she's from the Taskmaster miniseries.
Well, the boyfriend who's abusing her is not Taskmaster, but the boyfriend who's abusing her is killed by Taskmaster later in the series.
It feels like I had to read this Taskmaster miniseries to actually understand what was going on in this comic.
That's possible.
Which I did not do. I've actually heard good things about that Taskmaster miniseries from 2002, but you ain't catching me reading that. It's just like it's not on the top of my list. It might be great. I don't know. Actually, someone hit me up if the 2002 Taskmaster miniseries is worth reading. It's 4 issues, so I could do it.
The real person who killed the Four Winds is the villain of this arc. His name is the Black Swan, and he has the ability to reach into people's minds and basically turn them into vegetables. Unfortunately, when he does this to Deadpool, it doesn't work all the way. Like, he's mixing up some words. He's not able to aim as well, but because of his healing factor, it's not like killing him in the way it would another person. So the arc is basically a series of individual gigs that Deadpool gets until he eventually has to fight Black Swan. Not to be confused with the John Hickman Black Swan.
And not to be confused with the Natalie Portman movie.
No, this is a anime looking dude.
Nothing to do with ballet.
No, none at all. He does have a sparkly cane.
He does have a sparkly cane. Here's the good in this. At one point, Deadpool uses Pym particles on Rhino because he has to get Rhino's horn for something, and then he puts
for something. What was that something, Zachary?
To give someone virality.
Yes, he is hired to get Rhino's horn as an aphrodisiac for an elderly man who is married a much younger woman who is not happy about it, and the two of them keep calling Deadpool and offering counter offers to try and stop or get him to do it. But the bit about Rhino
does end in a murder and off screen, which is very dark, and I like the fact that it's dark, but I also don't love that whole subplot. That's a very 2002 subplot.
Yes. But I do like the idea of Rhino being Deadpool's keychain for an issue and a half or whatever that is. That's a pretty good gag.
That's a funny way to play on the Rhino and how, like, some people, like, that's one of the reasons why Rhino hunting was an issue, because people were legitimately doing that with the horns.
He's a bodyguard to Dazzler one issue.
That I have nothing for. I have nothing for that. I think it's weird. I think that's a weird one.
Yeah.
Because it again gets into the whole Dazzler isn't what Dazzler is. Like, Dazzler's canon is what people think Dazzler's canon is, not anything to do with any Dazzler comic before, like, actually right around like 2002. Like, no Dazzler canon matters. And that's a me issue. It is. But, like, you're going to write out my boy Ken like that? No.
So this all comes to a head going up against, Black Swan. There's this character. I'm curious what you think about Ratbag. Ratbag is the person that Deadpool has hired as another assistant throughout this series, who is clearly a schizophrenic, unhoused person whose brain is all mixed up, who says some pretty silly, weird things, off the wall stuff. Sometimes it's not funny at all. There are occasions where I did get a chuckle out of some of the things Ratbag says. Ratbag
is very lulz
to
me, and I don't love that. And then if you think about it, it's a punching down thing that, like,
that's what doesn't work about it.
We're just not doing that anymore. And, like, this is not me saying Gail Simone, it needs to be better. It's like, look, if you weren't around in 2002, you may not realize that was incredibly tame. That was deeply nothing. Like, but I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. That's nowhere near the level of cringe when you think about it as I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry, which is an indictment on our medical insurance industry more than anything else.
That's true. Ratbag does get cured by Black Swan at the end of this, and the series just kind of ends. Like, it's just like, hey, we won't see you next issue. Go read Agent X.
Adam, have you ever read Agent X?
I have not.
It has an X in the title. It feels like I should read it.
I guess.
Never read it. Is Agent X good? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, isn't Agent X the assassin introduced in this, Niho?
Yeah, he's Agent X.
Yeah, he is Agent X. So,
He gets
that's something, I guess. He's
he
a
gets
nothing character, though.
well, I know at one point, and I don't know if it's in Agent X or where, I know he gets inflated.
Inflated?
In the same way that you do, or I say you, I don't think that you draw this stuff, Adam, but that some artists will draw Sonic the Hedgehog, for example.
I see. I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Well, I'm
Google
just
Sonic inflation for more information.
not going to do that. That's going to screw up my algorithm. Put me on a list somewhere. One thing I am noticing about Agent X covers, though, is that Inez Temple, also known as Outlaw, appears in that series as well. And she has her first appearance in Deadpool 65.
She's not what you want her to be yet in Deadpool 65, though she's a lot closer than you might guess.
I'm interested if you could just talk for a second about a theory that you posited to me in reading these stories, that you said to me, I think I've figured out Gail Simone's Rogue. She's just Outlaw. Do you stand by that?
I stand by that about 80%. Now, here's the thing, Adam. The moment after I texted you that, I did not, that left my brain. I'm remembering this now, along with our readers learning this.
Okay.
That said, sometimes I just text things.
I'm telling you, I thought that was a really interesting suggestion, that Outlaw is the key that unlocks like what Gail is doing with Southern characters.
I think at minimum, Gail has a specific tick that she's using for Southern characters without giving them the appropriate voice. One, for the fact that the South is not just one unified place, which I'm sure Gail, I'm not saying things that Gail Simone doesn't know, but like the culture in West Texas is very different than the Bayou, is very different than the deep South of Mississippi and stuff, like there's a different vibe to all of that. But I do think because Rogue is a Southern kind of brassy, brash bruiser character, that there's a lot of Outlaw that Gail Simone is just naturally channeling into Rogue, while still, I would say, adding more nuance and doing a bit more with the character. I think part of the reason why, like, what I recognize about her Rogue feeling a little off to me is that it feels too much like Outlaw.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well,
that's pretty much that's the whole theory. It's not really a theory. It's more of a passing thought that you text to a friend and then don't think you have to defend in front of thousands of X-Men listeners.
Oh, this is what you've brought upon yourself. I don't really have much else to say about this arc. I don't know if you have any other grand observations about Deadpool healing factor here. I mean,
I have no grand observations about Deadpool healing factor. My grand observation is I see why Deadpool was getting canceled.
Yeah.
Back in 2002, when Marvel was canceling an ongoing series after nearly 70 issues, they would relaunch it and give you at least another year to try and make that relaunch stick. And then they would relaunch that again, but mashing two characters that aren't working together. Here's the thing. You know what? You know how Marvel can't get any traction on anything? They should instead of just relaunching books for 5 issues, they should smash together some books. They should be like, now we're going to do Iron Man and, I don't know, Spider-Gwen. And this is the team-up book now. Because they've done that twice to good success with Cable, Deadpool, and with Power Man Iron Fist. Like, that could be their winning strategy. And maybe we could get a grand total of 7 issues out of it this time.
We'll squeeze it out of there.
Okay. Adam, where does this rank on our big old list?
Well, I'm looking. We've got a bunch of Deadpool on our list. I don't think this is as good as at 816 Deadpool Max Volume 1 number 4, the Peru story.
It's not that good. Is it better or worse than Deadpool 15 to 18 Want You to Want Me?
I believe, even though that says Volume 4, I think it's Volume 3, and that's
almost definitely Volume 3, because Volume 4 is Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, which is really great.
Which is better.
This is the arc where Deadpool really wants to join the X-Men. It's written by Daniel Way. I don't know. They're kind of similar, in terms of quality. That's at 831.
It's better than 925, which is Deadpool and the Mercs for Money IVX.
I would agree. I do think we're in the I want to say Want You to Want Me is better.
This is probably better than I don't know, I'm looking at the list here. This is better than Excalibur Volume 2.
Yeah, at 849. So we're in the kind of top half of the 800s here.
This is better than Fear for Cyclops.
It's not as good as Kitty Pryde Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
This is better than Gambit from the Marvel Vault, but not as good as Extraordinary X-Men Weird World.
Great. Okay, so this is going to make Deadpool 65 to 69, Healing Factor, our new 839. We have one last really strange oddity here to talk about. We're going back to, or I guess that story was from 2002. This is from 2003. There were a series of these Gail Simone, Jason Lethko books that I assume are all ages comics geared towards getting kids to read X-Men. But Zach, this was by far the first time that I had ever heard of the marvelous adventures of Gus Beezer.
Yeah, so Gus Beezer is a small child who looks suspiciously like a Dennis the Menace.
Yes,
he's one of those rapscallions,
Yeah, or a Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes. He has
got some Calvin in. In fact, he's got a suspicious amount of Calvin in him.
Anna and I were trying to dissect exactly what he looks like because we were like, what Nicktoon is this? And he definitely's got a football shaped head like Hey Arnold. He's got some Hey Arnold to him as well.
In design, yes. In vibe, absolutely not.
No. Not the chill vibes. Not the chill vibes of Hey Arnold.
Yeah, Arnold was the straight man on that show.
Yes.
Stinky, he was a bit off. Helga, obviously the wild card in the situation. Gerald, very cool friend. He dressed himself as a fruit going downtown. And then they got their fruit stuff stolen and they had to be downtown in their underwear. I think about Hey Arnold a lot. You ever think about Stoop Kid?
Listen, Hey Arnold.
Adam, you know how Stoop Kid was going to leave his stoop?
I would say any episode of Hey Arnold is a million times better than whatever Gus Beezer is serving up here.
You ever think about Hey Arnold did a really deep and introspective episode about the fall of Saigon and the separation of Vietnamese families? That's how I looked about the Vietnam War?
Oh, what a show.
And actually, Hey Arnold's good. I never watched the movie because I never needed to know what the deal with Arnold's parents were. Sometimes people don't have parents and they live with their grandparents. As a kid who lived with his grandparents sometimes, I did not question that even a little bit, that he was living with his grandparents. That seemed normal. Questioned why his grandparents were, Aunt May's age, but that's, again, I already had an Aunt May. I was like, well, sometimes you're just with the oldest person you know.
Well, speaking of Aunt May, Gus Beezer is supposedly related to Peter Parker in some way related to Aunt May.
Which means that it would have been her.
He's a distant cousin to Peter Parker through his Aunt May. So
we know Aunt May had at least one sister who was in Madam Web.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I don't know enough about Aunt May's family tree to know if she had multiple sisters, but I'm just going to say that's a stretch.
Yeah. So for folks who have never seen Gus Beezer, he has a football-shaped head with big round ears on either side, exaggerated features.
And the worst coloring you've ever seen.
Yeah. He's got kind of cartoonish buck teeth and a big wave of yellow hair and little kind of sprigs of it coming above his ears. One of the weirdest things about this is Jeff Lethko's artwork, which is essentially just colored over top of pencils. And I never thought I'd say this, but you remember how I always complain about it in Extreme X-Men when LaRocca does that. This looks way worse.
This is way worse. It is going for a This looks like a Disney adventure comic, brackets derogatory.
I was going to say, those Disney adventure comics often looked very good compared
Bone
to
was
this.
in that. But, like, it is, I get, being of that era, I get what this is going for. I had digest-sized magazines that were in this style.
Mm-hmm.
However, this looks really bad. So it's a weird story where, okay, we have to talk about the format of this comic because this is the most bonkers thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, because it's telling two stories, but it's doing it simultaneously. The first story is playing out on the top 2/3 of the page,
which is a 6-panel grid.
Right. And then the bottom third of each page is kind of ripped and made, it looks like notebook paper. And there's another story taking place down there.
Now
you get instructions from Gus on like how to read this comic on the first page. And it's like, this is a weird choice.
It's an insane choice to me because, like, look, I can see a comics professional making that choice. But for that choice to make sense, the stories need to be thematically linked. They need to be doing parallel development. It needs to be a Curse of the Black Frigate or whatever, Watchmen type thing, You
could, pull this off.
There's a way to do this.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I was
don't know if Marvelous Adventures of Gus Beezer is the comic that should be stretching the media in that fashion.
This is not going to be like playing chess, Ryan North Squirrel Girl issue. You know what I mean? Like, these two stories have nothing to do with each other. The little notebook story is a nothing thing about Gus, like, dealing with his little baby sister Tilly, who's gotten to be a giant and needs to be placated by making his dog into a giant dog. The main story, which involves the X-Men, is also kind of nothing. He imagines that he and his friends are the X-Men in playtime. Then the actual X-Men visit him. The X-Men that visit him, I asked you this before we came on. It's a really weird group that, like, it's unclear whether they are the 616 or the ultimate versions of the X-Men.
Look, they're the X-Men from the movies is what they really are. It's Storm and Jean Grey and Cyclops and Wolverine and Professor X. It's the X-Men from the movies.
Black leather.
They are wearing movie adjacent costumes, which are sometimes the Frank Whiteley costumes, sometimes the 2003 Unified Wolverine costume. That's still the funniest concept in the world, to be the Unified Wolverine costume.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, is Gus Beezer a mutant? Well, no. So we're gonna leave. And it's like, okay. And
Wolverine gives him a jacket.
Sure. And Jean gives him a little smooch, which gross.
Look, he's a child. That's
I
not
know, but it's Gus Beezer. That's what makes it gross. It's Gus Beezer.
I feel like Gus Beezer, and I have kids, so I understand this. Gus Beezer is a sticky child. You know what I'm talking about? Some kids are just inherently stickier than others.
He's got jam hands.
Just like Gus Beezer's a finger guns kind of kid, not a smooch on the cheek kind of kid. No. That's man. Yeah, fist up. Keep it real, dude. Thumbs up. Let's go. Don't touch me. Yeah. I don't want to be. My wife is watching some children during the day at our house.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been exposed to many kids. Some I find deeply adorable, and some I do not want to touch me.
Yeah.
It's just like sometimes what kids are.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, that's just.
But this brings up a good point that, I think we said before we started.
But some kids need to wash more? I agree.
No. Well, yes.
And that's not an indictment on parents. Sometimes, look, just kids get messy, and the bath is like an hour-long fight with some kids. Like, I
do what you can.
Got 3 of my own. Right? No judgment. Sometimes all of our kids are sticky.
Yes. But to the point of Gus Beezer, it's like, what is this supposed to be? Is this supposed to be something enticing so that if a kid goes to a comic store and picks it up, is like, oh, now I know what the X-Men is. You and I have ranked quite a few of these sort of like ways to grab young readers and introduce them to the comics. I really can't imagine a kid picking up Gus Beezer and getting excited about the further adventures of Gus Beezer and or anything else that's happening here.
Absolutely not. Do you know how I got my older son to be like, hey, I think the X-Men might be interesting?
I mean, I'm assuming you handed him your beloved DK guide.
No, I didn't do that. I handed him a copy of X-Men Season 1. And I
Oh,
said, you should read this. This is
there
good.
you go. There you go.
I haven't read it in a while. I don't know if it's good for a 10-year-old. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was fine. He's mature enough. He also bought Dragon Hoops.
Oh, cool.
The Jin Luen Yang book.
Yeah.
Because he likes sports. And I've not read that. And then he was like, Dad, you know they say the F word in this? And I was like,
Whoa.
well,
Sometimes
okay.
books do that. Sometimes humans do that.
It was censored. So I was like, don't worry, babe. He's like, yeah, they said it 6 times. I was like, okay. Well, I was under the impression that this was like a middle school book. So it was censored. This is not a thing against Jin Luen Yang. And I think that kids are mature enough to know what cusses that their parents say
so too.
are. Like,
yeah. And I do think
not like it's a secret word that he's never heard before. I have stubbed my toe.
But I also think kids are savvy enough not to like look at something like this and be like, oh, yeah, I love this. Because, you know, I mean, Captain Underpants had been around at this point. You know, there's other kid and YA guided comics on the shelves that people are going to want to enjoy. You know,
this feels like 2003 Marvel looking at their lineup and saying, oh, crap. We're making books exclusively for 30-year-olds, and we were previously at least pretending to target kids.
Yeah.
And that really hadn't been true since the direct market, but it feels like someone trying to adjust that. And I don't think it comes out great because it's bad and boring, and I hate it.
Yeah, and I think the less said about it, the better.
No one's digging Gus Beezer coming back.
No, I think at most, if you're listening to this and you just want to know what it looks like, just Google it and then call it a day because you're not going to get anything out of reading it. This is going to go low, I think.
This is truly a bad X-Men comic. So here's what I'm going to say. At 1,100, we have Uncanny X-Men 417 to 420 Dominant Species. That's a Chucky the Trucky comic. And here's the thing. I'd rather we read that furry book.
Well, down at 1132, we have Meet the X-Men, a children's board book. I would say that is confusing.
The art is oddly similar.
Yeah, like it's
the board book has worse art.
Yeah,
I will say the board book has worse art. Hey, fun fact,
might be a better introduction.
Has that board book, and she thinks of it as Daddy's book, and I'm like, well, no. I don't like this, but I don't know how to explain to her that it's just she has bad taste.
Yeah. It's also nothing. So like, I feel kind of bad putting it below like Holy Word, She Lies with Angels, which like,
I think Holy War is worse. War is worse. I do not think this is as good as X-Force Volume 2, X-Force and Cable, The Legend Returns, though.
No.
Which is right above it. So we're in the exact right spot. I'm going to call this worse than the board book because here's the thing. If we're just going by intent, the board book is doing exactly what it is intending to do. This one fails at its intent.
Yes. All right. So this is going to be our new 1133, The Marvelous Adventures of Gus Beezer, X-Men. And, well, those were 3 Gail Simone stories.
Well, you know what? They sure were. But do you know what I think is good despite that?
Assuming the folks who helped us come up with the idea for this episode.
Thank you to our Patreons on Patreon. If you want to be a patron on Patreon, you can go to Patreon. That's how you Patreon. It's $5. Guys, it's $5. That's less than Well, hold on. By the time this comes out, that may be less than a gallon of gas.
It might be. Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Who's to say? Depends on where you live and what part of the country, right?
Who's to say? So why don't you help us fill up? fill up our coffers so Zach can do all of his road trips that he has to do, which is exhausting. Adam, what do you got going on this week?
Well, folks, if you are interested in reading those Gail Simone reviews that Austin and I are doing, we did just talk about Uncanny X-Men 25, which is the conclusion of the Where Monsters Dwell arc. So check that out on Comics XF. As of this recording, I was working on a remembrance of the great Sam Keith, who we just learned about his passing as of recording this over the past weekend. That one hurt, man. So trying to do a remembrance for the website that really focuses on his art. I'm hoping I can pull that together. It's kind of an interesting challenge to tread on, not go in the same kind of areas that other remembrances have. I don't want to be repetitious. So we'll see if that's out by the time this episode comes out.
I'm going to look at Marvel Comics Presents covers like I do every so often and be like, yeah
it's great
that's
stuff.
A hairy guy.
Yep. You can always follow social, Adam Rec, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Zach, what are we doing on our next episode, which you and I are about to record as soon as we hit stop on this one?
That's a secret. Next time we're celebrating Easter with the glorious resurrection and the renewal that comes from those eggs. Until then, folks, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survive the experience.
Get it!